CBS Sports HQ is built by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Back here with Bryant, McFadden, and Richard Johnson, here to talk winners and losers from Championship Saturday. B-Mac, who is your biggest winner this weekend?
My biggest winner might be the biggest surprise in terms of the potential playoff seeding, and that's Boise State.
Ooh.
They're my biggest winner because if you go back to late August, early September, if you had to give your prediction of what this new 12-team format would look like, I don't think there's anyone that would have included Boise State outside of Boise fans. But when you look at what they did, a storied-filled season, competitive football, even in their loss, they looked like a real good team against Oregon. Not to mention having one of the best players in college football lead them week in and week out and put forth dominating performances for them to get the national attention they deserve. So now when you fast forward to the current day and time, Boise, not only did they make the playoffs, but they also will have a first-round bye. Who would have thought? A first-round bye, so they're instantly in the second round of the playoffs. And the last time I checked, when you have a first-round bye, you just need to win 2 games to get to the promised land. Think about that. You just need to have a ball bounce this way or bounce that way for you to have the plays that you need to score more points than the opponent, and you're competing for a championship. That could actually happen. We've seen it done before in terms of teams that you don't expect to see get into the playoffs, but when you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. So they're my biggest winner when you look at what happened for them taking care of their business against UNLV and seeing what happened tonight in Championship Saturday. Boise, you're my biggest winner.
Beauty of the format is Boise gets in. Beauty of the format is a group of 5 conference champion gets in the dance. Love it. My winner gotta be SMU. They win even though they didn't win on the night, because I do think SMU ends up in the playoff at the end. They win because they were able to lose very closely because they came back in that game. At halftime, it didn't look so good for SMU. At halftime, I sat on this desk and thought that SMU had no chance to get in the playoff because I thought they were going to get their doors blown off in the second half of that game, similarly to how they got their doors blown off in the first half of that game. But they battled back in that game, lose close, and then when you take a step back and you evaluate both resumes, what Alabama has and what SMU has, I take SMU in the 12-team field.
Well, right now listed at minus 390 to make the playoff. So let's put your money together and let's get some free money, right? Let's do it. Get the Mustangs into the playoff. All right. As for your biggest loser, B-Mac, who disappointed you the most?
Alabama. They're my biggest loser. Number one, they needed help. That's the first issue for a team like Alabama when you look at the talent. Why do you need help to hope to get into the playoffs? Because you knew exactly what you needed to do. Take care of your business. You just beat Oklahoma. You don't have nothing to worry about. If you beat Oklahoma, you have nothing to worry about. Or in college football, there's such a thing as good losses. If you lost to Oklahoma by a game-winning field goal, you probably would still be in a good position to get to the playoffs. But because you got dominated by a bad team, you didn't score 1 point. You needed to hope and pray for Clemson to blow out SMU. To Richard's point, SMU fought back. Because of how they fought back and made that game competitive, I believe they're going to get in. And if they get in, guess what, Alabama? With a potential Heisman candidate in the month of September in Jalen Milroe, you will not be playoff worthy. And all of that happened because you had 2 of the ugliest losses out of any team in the SEC. Losing to Vandy in the fashion in which you lost, and then losing to Oklahoma. When you lose to those teams in the way you did, no question you're not deserving to get into the playoffs.
Think how many times we've upended this entire sport because Alabama has a conniption. 2012, we upended the entire sport because Alabama had a conniption, or we had a conniption about Alabama, and I think we may try to do that again in the future. But right now, my loser is also Alabama. Alabama, you sat at the house today and watch that game unfold because you weren't in a conference championship game. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. 3 losses. Lost to Vanderbilt. Got blown out by Oklahoma. It matters. Eventually, it has to matter. Eventually, you run out of mulligans. You run out of road. And to me, SEC 5 does not get in just because of the conference they play at. Because the SEC's, while at the top, it's as good as any league, it's better than any league, perhaps, it's not as deep as people want you to believe. The SEC's not this 12-deep league where the SEC's 12 is significantly better than the Big 12's 12 or the Big 10's 12. That's not what I think of that league. I think the SEC is not that much of better than the other leagues. And because of that, I think that Alabama is trying to rest its laurels on a strength of schedule and all that sort of stuff that I don't really buy into right now.
I will say this, and this is for a much deeper conversation for another time, but with NIL, the rest of the country is catching up to teams and programs like Alabama. All right, Oregon remains the favorite to win the Natty. BMAC, who is your pick to win the national championship? You can be a prisoner of the moment, or you could say, you know what? I'm gonna go a little bit further down the board because I believe in a team. I believe in a team that has heart. I believe in a team that's going to come back and redeem themselves. A team that wears scarlet and gray.
Good try.
Yeah.
Good try. For me, I will be a prisoner of the moment, but I also will be a prisoner of what I've seen the entire season. I'm picking the Oregon Ducks. I mean, when you look at their schedule and how they took care of their business, the ability to win every game, being the ranked team for the majority of the season and getting every opposing team's best effort, that means something. Not to mention their quarterback is playing like a Heisman candidate. Right now, he's playing the best football we've seen with him being in the Oregon Ducks uniform, and this is the most important time to be at your best. Not to mention their style. How many different ways they can score points? They can run the football, they can throw it around the yard, they have speed, they have quickness, they have explosive players up and down their offense, not to mention a very, very opportunistic defense, and they have a coach that embodies physical nature. They have a coach that embodies being the bully on the football field, and those players, they fit his image, and he coaches them to that level. So I am taking the Oregon Ducks. I understand anything can happen any given Saturday, but in terms of just being consistent and being able to fight in different styles, it's the Oregon Ducks for me.
I agree with BMAC. I'm also taking Oregon because we talked about what happens on Saturday matters, and I have seen Oregon beat Boise State, Ohio State, and Penn State. That's a quarter of the playoff field. I'm not that smart, but I can do basic math. Oregon's beaten 3 of the 12 teams that are going to be in the college football playoff, and it's beaten them at different points in its season. It's beaten them early in the season when Oregon was not the finished product, when they didn't have their offensive line in the right place. It beat them in a knockdown, drag-out where they had to maximize their chances to win at home against Ohio State. And then they did it in championship phase tonight against Penn State when they got Penn State's best shot. Yep. And Penn State battled back in that game. It's a one-score game at the end, and Penn State did not go away. So I've seen Oregon do it. I've seen Oregon do it time and time again. I know what I've seen this season, and I think the Ducks will win the national championship because I've seen them beat the teams that they're going to have to go through to get there.
Oregon chasing its first national championship in school history. Will it be quack, quack? We shall see. The first round of the playoffs start in 2 weeks, but Oregon won't play another game for 3 weeks as they get a bye in the top seed in the college football playoff. BMAC and Richard Johnson here on CBS Sports HQ. Oregon, the favorite at plus 330, but Georgia with the second shortest odds at plus 350. And Georgia certainly going to benefit from the bye, having the 3 weeks off with Carson Beck getting injured, Gunnar Stockton having to come in on relief. Again, the first round of the playoff begin with 1 game on Friday, December 20th, followed by 3 games on Saturday, the 21st. 11 games to be played in all, culminating with the national championship in Atlanta on January 20th.